Hi, my name is Emily Cohen, and I'm a grateful member of this community. When John S. Forms called to let me know that I'd been chosen for this award, I went through a myriad of feelings: shock, denial, and gratitude. Surprisingly similar to the feelings I had when I got to Beit Shuvah almost 30 years ago. And just like then, when he asked me if I was going to accept the award, I said, "Do I have a choice?" I laugh at it now, but there's no question how honored I am to accept this award. Which brings me to tonight. Thank you to everyone who has supported me by attending, and thank you to everyone who continues to support Beit Shuvah in their mission of saving lives and saving souls. When I got to Beit Shuvah, I was 29 years old. I had a 7-year-old daughter who was being raised by my mother, a number of outstanding warrants, and everything I owned fit into a plastic bag. I knew that Beit Shuvah existed because every time I got into trouble, my dad would call the Jewish jail lady, and someone would show up with underclothes, an AA Big Book, and a message of hope. I was raised in Hollywood in the 80s. My parents divorced when I was very young, and I was left to figure out a lot of life's lessons on my own. I came from a culturally Jewish family, which meant that we loved bagels and lox, we ate Chinese on Christmas, and we valued intellectual ideals. I learned very early on that if I did well in school and I kept up with my violin lessons, that the rest of my life was mine. I spent most of my youth looking for a place to fit in. I tried on lots of identities. I was a surfer, I was a punk rocker, and eventually, in a darker turn, I was a stoner, and then a gangster. My addiction took off in a really big way, and so did I. I did geographics around the world. I did a junior year abroad where I learned that you just have to see over the bar and to be served in pubs in England. I went to college in the Northwest where I learned that alcohol really helps to detox off drugs. And I spent a year abroad that ended in my no longer being allowed in Scotland. And then finally, I came back to Los Angeles where I bounced in and out of institutions until I ended up at Beit Shuvah, the last house on the block for me. By the time I got to Beit Shuvah, the legal system was involved and I was facing some pretty serious consequences. I'd made a complete mess of my life. There were brief periods of sobriety, but each time I would start to get my life back, I would screw it up even worse. The bottoms just kept getting lower. The one thing I knew, though, is that I loved my daughter, and she was an innocent victim of my addiction. So when the judge offered me Beit Shuvah, I reluctantly accepted. Reluctantly. Luckily, nobody ever asked me if I could afford Beit Shuvah or if I had insurance, because I had nothing. I had no ability to pay, and yet they accepted me. I found my people when I walked up the steps of Lake Street. It was a place where I somehow fit, to quote our founder, among the dropouts and the misfits. Judaism was central to that, and the values I learned through study and living with people who had similar life experiences forever changed me. I met the man who became and remains my rabbi. He was perfectly imperfect. He yelled a lot and he challenged my belief system, but ultimately he saw me and he believed in me. I stayed up all night for Shavuot and I studied under the tent, and when the sun came up, a window of willingness opened. That moment changed everything for me. That's where I learned trust, and that's where I learned what unconditional love feels like. And that's where I learned what it feels like, what it means to be a part of a community. Connection and community have become essential ingredients of my daily life. I stayed connected to others by belonging to communities of like-minded people and by being of service. I'm passionate about showing up for people both personally and professionally, whether it's someone who needs treatment for a loved one, wants to train for their first marathon, or being that person who just listens to the struggles of daily life. Getting those calls and being able to help or connect people to resources is what fuels me. I surround myself with people who show up for others, just like the many special people who showed up for me this evening. Harold Rothstein was someone who truly embodied the principles of Teshuvah. For years, he was that voice on the other end of the phone that so many people desperately needed to hear, doing his best to make sure that those seeking recovery and a new way of life had a place to go. During Harold's last days, his house was full. We laughed, we sang, we cried, we ate. Alumni spanning many generations came together out of our love for Harold and gratitude for Beit Shuvah. He connected us one last time. Thank you to all the donors and supporters for honoring Harold by keeping the doors open. The Talmud teaches if you save one life, you save the world. I take this saying very seriously, and as a result, I have the most wonderful life today. My work in the field of recovery gives me purpose and meaning. I have close relationships with my biological and chosen family. I've been married for over 20 years. I have an adult daughter, I have a teenage son, and I have a new granddaughter who's stolen my heart. I spend a lot of time outdoors with the most amazing community of athletes. I get to be authentically me in every area of my life. Even though the buildings have changed and the program has evolved, when I walk into the sanctuary at Beit Shuvah, I get that same familiar feeling. The essence of Beit Shuvah, the language of the heart, the emphasis on community, the gratitude expressed at Shabbat services, that's all the same. And that's why I keep coming back. And that's why I give generously, and I hope you will too. That is why 30 years later, I believe so strongly in Beit Shuvah's mission. Thank you.